one of the old ones stood up into the morning light and spoke to those who had come back to the river. Now we have come again to this place. It is a good thing. My life apart from you is not as strong. Yes, I have danced, and I have told the stories at my own fire, and I have sung to all the 6 directions. But when I am with you, my friends, I know better who it is in me that sings.
Lift up your voice and sing a joyful song. Sing with your heart and be glad. Open your hands and be joyful, all ye lands. Lift up your voice and rejoice. Lift your voice and rejoice. Lift your voice and sing with us. Lift your voices. Lift your voice and rejoice.
Well, we've got multiple stars today because we also have the debut of our children's spring video pageant. One of the benefits of doing it on the video is we don't have all of our participants here today, although we have a bunch of them, which is nice. And so you can do this sort of asynchronistic offering where people can come at different times.
The youth of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lynn present Hide and Seek with God, a story by UU religious educator Mary Ann Moore.
I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you, I need you to survive. It is our will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to everything that has breath ought to praise Him.
I grew up in the church, and when I say church, I mean gospel, I mean Baptist church, I mean when you go to a non-denominational church. And has anyone ever been to a non-denominational church? Does it feel non-denominational? It doesn't. It's not at all. Usually it's a place that everybody can come, but for me, I say they have a big pink Pentecostal flair. Yeah? You have people, running. You got, the Holy Spirit moving. It is a deeply emotional, a deeply feeling experience just to walk into the room. At the church where I spent my teens, it was kind of a mega church. I won't say the name for now, but we had two pastors, and they were a married couple, bigger than life. One of them was Lawrence, Pastor Lawrence. He was the pastor, and he sang bluegrass. He raised horses and traded them. He was the kind of person who in sermons loved you to loving God. He would talk about how God loves you, and that's why you should love God. That you have all of these things, and that's by virtue of the fact that God has blessed you. Why not love this person back as much as they love you? And then you had Pastor Darlene. Pastor Darlene, I love that woman today. She's a little like she's kind of like a little Dolly Parton, but brunette, And she's a spitfire. I liked her a lot. My mom liked Pastor Lawrence. It's very gentle. When you play music, underneath in black church, or that wasn't black church, but had a lot of black people in it, and black style, there's often music underneath the sermons or in between, and it had Pastor Lawrence's music is more like what you probably just heard. Hallelujah, oh, my heart is so warm and open. Pastor Darlene, it's hellfire, brimstone, which for us as Unitarian Universalists is a little scary, like, oh God, why are we talking about hell or burning or all of those things? And how do you think that you can love that? Especially as someone, as many of you might know, I'm gay married. I have a husband, and Pentecostal church not accepting, right? And a lot of what was coming from the pulpit often was exactly against everything that I was feeling, experiencing in my life. And often she was the one who did it. But what I appreciated about her was the amount of spirit and how I felt. I always felt convicted in some way, whether it was because I had a thought about a cute boy, or because I said a curse word, or because I showed up a little late to church. I just had some kind of conviction I enjoyed feeling so much. And the music that accompanied her and her style was so very lively and expressive. And I loved that. I lived for that. I would probably still die for Darlene. What I found as I grew up and came into myself a little bit was, in self-discovery, I pulled away from the church a little bit because while my heart was so invested, my brain could not stay in a space that was like, well, you're saying all of these things, and this is your lived experience right now. So it pulled me away from the church, and I left a heart space, a feeling space for something entirely intellectual, something entirely educational, something that if I can't process, if it is not exactly logical, get out of my face, And I found myself at a lot of different churches because somehow, as a church musician, you find yourself, you understand what it means to how music functions in a service, that it can create an emotion that as David is playing underneath one of Vicky's prayers, Reverend Vicky's prayers, it just adds a little something, right, that gets you there in a way. And because I was very comfortable facilitating that sort of experience as a pianist, then I found my way still into many different churches. But it was a very long time, probably about 12 years after having left my home church with my two favorite ministers. And I really do, they are two favorite ministers. Before I found myself at this actually beautiful, beautiful place, not terribly far from here, in Concord. And it was the Unitarian Church, Unitarian Universalist Church, First Parish Church in Concord. And that was my first Unitarian Universalist experience. And what I so appreciated was I played piano, prelude music, and people listened like nobody talked. It was glorious. I added some new harmonies underneath the hymn. Oh my God, people in the front were dying. It's great. Theatrical in a way. But one of the choir, I listened to the choir, they sang beautifully. The thing, too, that got me was the minister on that day, and I mentioned this earlier, so forgive me for repeating myself, but made mention of sort of this responsibility of Unitarian Universalists as a community, as an organization, as a people, to do good things for the sake of doing them, and to do them now, to be good people just to be good people, not because you're trying to get you're waiting to die so that you can get a reward in heaven, that your life sucks now, your neighbor's life sucks now, and that's what it's just going to be until we're on the other side, right? It wasn't that. We have responsibility now to be heaven on earth, make heaven on earth, whatever that means. And if you don't believe in heaven, whatever this paradise, this ideal community, where that's sourced up, that everybody has what they need, what does it look like to make that? It was the first time in a very long time that I had been in a church, a sacred place, that I felt as if I could show up with the entirety of who I was, that I enjoyed the music. I felt convicted in a way. And one of the things that has led me to this place is that experience, that I felt so connected to the message here. And I had an understanding of this, that y'all appreciated the music, and I was like, okay, I can dig these people, But it's funny. I find myself often listening to a lot of gospel music. You'll hear someone, our choral benediction by Richard Smallwood, Total Praise. And if you're looking for a plug, or you're looking for a really fantastic album to listen to, no matter what your persuasion might be, live in Atlanta, Adoration, Richard Smallwood, it's fantastic. It is gospel music, but it's not just gospel music. It's strings and woodwinds, and it's all the emotions, and there's call and response, and it's just, oh my God, in heaven. And when I remember listening to this music as a kid and having those same feelings that Pastor Darlene gave me, heart yanked out on the floor, I, even having traveled the emotional and intellectual journey I have, and come into the identity that I am living in now, I still find myself, when I'm in a big cathedral, or I listen to some of these songs, where I cry, I feel this huge emotional something. And it always makes me want to do something, makes me want to be better. And when I think about this, I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on UUs, because I'm not. Obviously, I love it. I've been here this is my 5th or 6th year now. I like it. I love you all. But one of the things when I first came, just generally to church, I could appreciate that people appreciated the music that I was serving. Sometimes when I would go, services felt very stilted, and non-emotional, which is sometimes really nice because, there's a lot of, when you have feelings, sometimes like a lot of things come out, you're like, that thing doesn't make sense. You're saying this thing and I think you really mean this, but you're saying this and you're doing that, and what does this all mean? And how do you make sense of anything that people are saying, right? Or sometimes when you go to, I'll call out some news people, thinking about like Fox News and the people who are listening to Fox News. And sorry, Vicki, if you're listening, I know you are. I hope I don't get myself or the church in trouble. But when I think about the thing that I think drives a lot of the listeners there, and when you find some statistics about it too, I don't have any numbers. I mean, I'm still on the emotional side here. But the people who listen to, say, Fox News versus an MSNBC or even a CNN are more likely driven by emotions, and those are things like fear, and worry, anger, but also just this idea of just being, I think, generally emotional people. And then the statistic is usually something like, if you listen to MSNBC, you probably have 5 degrees. You probably, are very cranial. And what happens is that we live over here in Fox and over here in MSNBC, and there's all this in the center that we don't meet. And when I think about, you're like, well, what does all of this mean? This is Music Sunday. So I'll wrap it up because I'm at 11 minutes and 39 seconds. But I think about the need to sing each other's song. Yes? Even if it has words that maybe you don't understand right away. When I was looking out during I Need You to Survive, and I could see people tap in, and it's like, a lot of Unitarian Universalist churches don't use any God language whatsoever, right? They're like, God, no, I will not say God. I will say Spirit of Life. I will say Great Being. I will say Tree, whatever, right? I will not say God. We do say it here, right? So it's a little softer entry for us. But, we can get hung up so much on text and miss this really crucial thing about connectedness. The message in that song, think about, like, I need you to survive. What does that mean, honestly? It could mean that, my survival depends on your survival. It could mean that I care so much about you that I need you to survive because I care about you. It has nothing to do about how I feel about myself, but it's only because I care about you. And there are a lot of different ways that you can come at that, and I invite us, and we as a choir talked about this a little bit too, but I invite you to think about sort of maybe when you look at that text, or I pray for you, whether you pray or not, what does it mean to be prayerful or to be present for people? But needing them to survive. Taps for us, even though it's this gospel type tune, right? Taps into something that I think we all know as Unitarian Universalists about how we are all interconnected. I need you, you need me. We cannot do this thing without each other. Your well-being is my well-being is yours. And if we can find these opportunities to sing the songs or listen to the stories of other communities and find the commonalities before we find the differences, I think that Unitarian Universalists are really poised to not just have the head part, the intellect here, but to reach people who are not already with us, who might be more motivated by this. So what does that mean for us? It means we can sing things that we might not have in our hymnal, right? We can think about what does it mean to approach a musical experience in a way that is prayerful, that is worshipful, that is deeply heartfelt. And then use that heart that we have, that we've cultivated in this space, and marry it with our intellect to share that out with the world. Music being this beautiful tool that we can use for connectivity and empathy. I know we're not generally a proselytizing group of people, but I think that should we combine this and this, that our message is quite powerful and can be heard by a lot of people. So the onus is upon us all to work to improve the human condition.